He was held for 15 hours in his shorts and T-shirt in a highly air-conditioned building, so he was freezing most of the time, and he had no food or drink for 15 hours, and he was repeatedly questioned. When they eventually let him out on charges that he'd failed to obey a peace officer, if I remember that correctly, he was looking forward to getting out of the country. Eventually, when he was at the airport waiting for his flight, he was again arrested. Consequently, he missed his flight, so he was given a hard time again and then released, and obviously he had to buy another ticket. So Charlie has got a phenomenal story to tell about what it's like. This isn't the Soviet Union or East Germany, this is Canada. And he said the spooky thing was that inside this huge facility with cages for people, there were posters welcoming you to the facility. When he complained at one stage, he had two very fat, burly policemen, well, one man, one woman, effectively taking the mickey out of him, telling him that he wasn't in this facility for fun, he was there to suffer. Now, of course, the thing was, he'd never come to trial. But the mentality of the police in that facility was that he was there to suffer. This is how the fascist state starts. And this is Canada, never mind here. So there's something worth watching on the video about him. Okay. All right, excellent. We've got some of his videos if nobody's seen him before. And it's well worth watching because it's humorous virtually all of the time. Right, common purpose. It may seem that I've been very quiet on common purpose for a while, but the reason for that is wonderful. There are hundreds of people out there now asking questions about common purpose. They're sending in the Freedom of Information requests. They don't like the answers. They're digging. They're talking to counsellors. There are some court battles going on at the moment against common purpose. And although Julia Middleton thinks I spend every minute of my working day orchestrating a campaign against her organisation, I do no such thing, because it's now at the stage where the public doesn't like what they see. In the Midlands, we've got councillors now asking what this organisation is doing, swallowing up public money. We've got a court case going on to do with disclosure of names. We know that Common Purpose has closed down quite a few offices from about 42 they had about 3.5 years ago. They're now down to around 20-something. They've been sacking some of their directors, including one of the ladies who was the main leader in investigating people looking into Common Purpose. And we know that the Tories are actually starting to weed out common purpose people. Now, this is quite interesting because we know that the Conservatives regard common purpose as being a new Labour creation, and I'm happy for them to think that. But the thing we've got to watch is that at the same time they're rooting out some of these people, we've got people like Francis Maude, former chairman of the Tory party, who is a great friend of Julia Middleton, and he's happy to be paraded on the Common Purpose website. So we shouldn't trust the Tories, as always, but there is a turbulence there, and that's always good for us, because it means people are starting to think and do things. So I think we're going to see a lot more interesting stuff emerge with Common Purpose. We know that at the moment the Information Commissioner's Office, who should protect us when we ask for our personal data, they are blocking and stalling to protect Common Purpose. And we know that Common Purpose has lied to the Information Commissioner's Office. That's documented. And we also know the Information Commissioner's Office are themselves not telling the truth, and that's on documentary evidence. We know that the Audit Commission is suddenly very shy about opening up cases about Common Purpose, and that, of course, is because Common Purpose is in the Audit Commission. But since we are going to see massive cuts, that pot is beginning to stir quite nicely. There is no question that it is neuro-linguistic programming which is the danger. Absolutely no question. So this is being used by Common Purpose, but it is also the techniques are also being used by other organisations who have a direct impact on our lives. So the training of local authority staff, NLPs being used, social services people, NLPs being used, police. And this is where you are starting to see the change in people's attitudes, where police go from being reasonable blokes to very aggressive and domineering. It may be to do with the number of crisps they're eating and the drinks. That's possible, but as well we know that it's neuro-linguistic programming. My view is that if somebody uses a hypnosis, a hypnotic technique on you without your permission, that is assault. And I think that one of the directions we need to go in is to say that anybody who's had this used on them against their will or without prior notification, we should have the option for a charge of assault or a case against the host organisation. One question we haven't established with Common Purpose yet is, does their indemnity insurance allow them to do with what they're doing? So we're going to have a look at food and drink. That's one attack, but the other attack on our minds is through NLP. And as I've said before, if anybody is an NLP practitioner in the audience, we're not saying that everybody doing it is bad. What we're saying is some bad people are using it for the wrong purpose. So it's a common sense thing. Something I want to warn about, which we've had some researchers working on, well, really for a couple of years, but it's coming to fruition, is the rise in the New Age church movement. And this is getting stronger and stronger. I was given an excellent book in Bury St Edmunds about 3 weeks ago on the United Religious Initiative, run under a guy called Bishop Swing in California. And what you're starting to see is a mixture of New Age religion with NLP thrown in, starting to be spread as a mainstream religious organisation. And when you analyse what it is doing, it's invariably supporting government policy, including saving the world and global warming. So we need to be quite discerning about these things coming through. There's another organisation which we're very interested in, if anybody's got any knowledge, and that's called Munay Ki, MUNAY-KI. This is a South American cult, I'm going to call it. It's dealing in rights and death rights and bringing people into new spiritual dimensions. But if you do your homework, you find there's a lot of controversy against the chief executive, a man called Mr. Villodo, yeah, that's right. And he is also connected with people using NLP. So you take a cult-type experience, you bring in neuro-linguistics, you've got a very powerful programming tool. And we found this very concerning to find psychologists who are making judgments on other people they've never met, and those psychologists are reporting quite happily on websites that they believe in blue people and ancient humans. Maybe that's a good discussion to have, but not, I believe, when you're trying to section somebody. So, where are we? The British Constitution group was always designed to be loose. We were never going to set up a strong structure, because that's how they infiltrate and collapse it. But I can tell you it is working, because more and more of you are doing your own things. So you are the important people. We didn't do a lot of advertising of this event. We're guilty of that. We were snowed under for all sorts of reasons. And I'm absolutely stunned that so many of you have appeared. It's brilliant. So after the summer, we are going to work very hard to improve the communications between the points of contacts. We are going to have more regular, I call them SITREPs, situation reports, where we're telling you what we know, but feedback from you guys and getting each of your groups working, just keep going. The fact we're not sticking with any one subject is working. We're not talking about the EU all the time. We're not talking politics, because we've learnt you hook people on the subject they're interested in. So if some people are interested in Codex Alimentarius, that's their main subject, they then start to hear a bit about the police state. So where the meetings have kept the subjects broad and loose, we're seeing a really good response. We're getting people across parties getting interested, and I can tell you that good old Albert Burgess, who's still hammering away at treason, has now definitely got people connected with the House of Lords interested in what he's saying. Now, we can be very cynical about these people, we can blame them for things, but we've all been duped at some stage. What we're interested in is they are now approaching us rather than us having to chase them. And I think one of the things that Roger has been able to do is keep the theme of this group down the middle. So we're never too wacky, we're never too far into the politics, and this seems to be working because people regard us as a safe place to come to. So if you disagree with what I've just said, come and tell me afterwards, but that's the impression that we're getting. The lawful rebellion idea is working, without a doubt, and people seem to be doing it even if they aren't buying the lawful rebellion stickers. When Maureen Spalak was arrested for the umpteenth time and disappeared into a Cheshire police station, it was the calls from the public that got that lady out. And the police were very spooked by it, because if the call centre gets swamped, they have to end up calling senior people like the Chief Constable. And I can imagine the average Chief Constable does not like to be called out of his bed at 1 o'clock in the morning to be told that the public have swamped his call centre. It worked with Robert Greene. Did we organise it? No. It happened the moment the information went out on the internet that Maureen had been grabbed. And so what we've learnt is that every time the state attempts to go for an individual or a group, if you see mass public reaction, they invariably back off. And all you've got to do is pick up a phone, send an email, or something of that nature. It's dead easy to do. Can't tell you where or when, but I've heard a rumour that in a court there was a debate between a judge and some authorities, and they said, well, the trouble is, what do we do? If we put out a big injunction to stop these people, we're going to have the press on our backs. And they're not an organisation. They're people. So how do we stop them? Yes, it is a problem. And it was wonderful, because somebody has just told us that what we're doing is very difficult to counter. So the lawful rebellion, making phone calls, getting at the authorities themselves works. And we need it to happen on a scale of not tens of thousands, but millions. And I think we can achieve it if you and everybody else who's logged on with us keep talking to other people. So, if I sum up, I watch everything speeding up. You see at the moment the police becoming more armed, more Nazi, more fascist. We've got some ruses going on at the moment, I think, to get shotguns away from people. They're after our children, they're trying to get us with food, but people are waking up. And all we need to do is stir the pot so they do it quicker. So I am really optimistic. And the other thing that's happening is people are not so fearful. There's a bit more of a spirit and a bit of a joke and a feeling that we can beat these people. And we can, and we're going to. That's all from me. Thanks very much.